Hey, this is Kez.
And Will.
And this is Nightmares at Midnight. Hello and welcome back to Nightmares at Midnight. Like I said, I'm Kez and I have my husband Will on the episode today. Everybody say hello to Will.
Hi.
Today's episode is going to be on Kelpies. We are continuing our sea creature series. This is episode 3 of the series. And I think we're going to have maybe one more and then move on to some other episodes. So Will is going to be leading this episode today. He did majority of the research. He knows more about the creatures than I do. So he's going to go ahead and take over from here real quick. I just want to cover the regular spiel that I do in the beginning. Hopefully you are listening on our website at nightmaresatmidnightpodcast.buzzsprout.com. That way I can see that you're downloading the episodes and which ones are more popular than others. If not, hopefully you're listening on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, I know for sure you can click to follow or receive notifications so that way you get notified every time we drop an episode. Otherwise, you can listen on Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, Podcast Index, TuneIn Plus Alexa, Podcast Addict, and iHeartRadio. Don't forget to swing over to patreon.com/Nightmares at Midnight podcast so that way you can become a member and get all of the extras. You can see us record the episodes. You can get extra details about each episode. You can get one-on-ones with us and so much more. So go ahead and check that out and support us. That way we can continue making episodes. And like always, if you have a suggestion of an episode that we could do, email us at nightmaresatmidnightpodcast@gmail.com. As a busy mom, it can be hard to take care of yourself. Even harder when you need to leave the house alone for that self-care. My friend Jennifer has a solution for that. She offers in-home massage in the Wasilla and Palmer, Alaska area. Her business is called Anchored in Relaxation, and you can find her on Facebook and Square Appointments or by emailing anchoredinrelaxation@gmail.com. Mention you heard about her here for a free peppermint scalp massage added onto any massage. So we're going to jump right into Kelpies, and here's Will.
Alright, so Kelpies are actually the most common water spirit in all of Scottish folklore. I thought that was kind of interesting, that it wasn't Nessie or something bigger. It was actually this kind of like shape-shifting water horse that inhabits lochs and streams, ponds. There's a little bit of debate about habitat, but we'll get into that in a little bit later.
What are lochs?
We'll get into that a little bit later.
I don't know what lochs are.
So they're described as a black horse-like creature that can take the form of a human. Some accounts say that it actually keeps its hooves even when it's in human form, much like Krampus. And there's actually a correlation there as well where the Christians cling to the shapeshifters or humanoid type beasts maintaining hooves, much as Satan has hooves. So they try to make these connections with creatures from religions older than theirs having hooves, like Satan, symbolizing the devil. The main identifying feature on how to tell whether it's a Kelpie or an actual horse is that the Kelpie's hooves are reversed in compared to normal horse hooves. So they actually grow longer in the back than in the front. So basically if you just like took the horse hoof and at the like ankle just spun it around 180 degrees, that's how a Kelpie walks around. So it looks a little bit funky, right? But that would be an easy way to tell a Kelpie from a regular black horse just hanging out by the river. Another fun fact, when they're in their equine form, they can actually elongate their bodies to accommodate more riders. And this is actually one of the common ploys, that it tries to maximize the number of people that will climb on the back of the Kelpie at one time. So it basically will stretch as big as it needs to so it can fit all the riders.
I might have nightmares.
You probably should. Speaking of people climbing on the back of it, the hide is actually like really sticky and it's magical. And once you climb on the back of the Kelpie, you can no longer get off of the Kelpie. Like you're stuck to it like glue. When we get into some of the stories, we'll explain why that's an important part. Kelpies will typically prey on humans that they encounter along the riverbeds, and they will take them into the water and then devour them. And the only remains that are usually found are like entrails that wash up on the banks. The one specific organ that was mentioned was the liver. For some reason, Kelpies don't like liver. I don't blame them. I'm not a big liver fan either.
Well,
but,
I mean, this is in Scotland, right?
Well, yeah.
Aren't they known to be like heavy drinkers in Scotland?
That could be too.
Maybe they just don't like the liver because it's already trash.
Yeah, the Kelpies are avoiding the toxic organs. So there's also claims that Kelpies in their horse form would mate with local horses. And what would be produced is what looks like a regular horse, but the ears are a bit shorter than a regular horse's, and you couldn't drown them because they're part water spirit that lives in the water. So
would their hooves be backwards?
I didn't see any mention of backwards hooves and being able to tell a
that
hybrid.
Really freaks me out.
I know, that's going to be the only thing you think about this whole episode is this horse with backwards hooves. But the hybrid water spirit animal with traditional land-dwelling animal offspring having shorter ears is actually a common trend in Scottish folklore or Scottish history. There's another one, the water bull, and I forget the third one that I saw, but all of their offspring are born with short ears and can't be killed by drowning, so you would have to use another method to destroy the offspring, because the concern was if all of these hybrids keep reproducing, eventually the actual horses or actual cows aren't going to be around anymore, and there goes your, whatever use you had for them. So like I said, they can take the outwards appearance of a human. One of the indicators when they're in human form is they may still have some of that water weed in their hair, as if, someone was just swimming around in kelp and came straight out of the water. Accounts are typically of a wizened old man or a shaggy man. Every now and then there's a story of a Kelpie turning into a handsome young man, usually to woo a young, beautiful lady, whether that's to devour her or marry her.
Wait. So they were... I don't understand the old man part. How did you get from old man to young, handsome man?
Well, the old man typically stays alongside the river, and he will either ambush lone travelers that are coming across a bridge or along the riverbank or on the side of the lake, and he'll either crush them or, shove them into the water so he can devour them. Or if the Kelpie was looking to mate and potentially reproduce, he would decide to transform into a attractive young man.
Okay.
Well, it's the kind of two main forms that they take. There are very few accounts of Kelpies taking a female form, but ironically, the majority of the pictures that I saw while I was reading about them, like the paintings, are all of females. I don't know if it's just because a gristly old dude isn't a really appealing picture for someone to paint, as opposed to a typically not clothed woman sitting on a rock next to a river.
So was she fully naked, or was she mermaid?
No.
Was she half horse?
No.
She was just her.
Her.
And then she lures them in and turns into a horse.
Yep.
With backward feet and kelpie hair and stretchy body and drowns them.
In human form, they have kelpie hair. Right? Right? Like I said, some of the claims are when they are in human form, they keep the hoof. But from the paintings, which I'm guessing are more of the traditional Scottish belief pre-Christianity, they're all painted as full humans. And other than maybe some stuff in the hair, you would never know that was a Kelpie until it was too late.
Okay.
So it said that when a Kelpie enters the water, the sound of the tail, when the tail contacts the lake or the river, it actually sounds like thunder. And that's another indicator that it is a Kelpie and not a regular horse.
I read that too when I was just skimming it,
Yeah.
that if you hear thunder along like a riverbed, that you should not be in that area.
Right, because that was a sign that there was a Kelpie nearby, and you might have an untimely demise. There was also something about if you hear like whinnying or spooky screeching while you're walking along the rivers or in the woods, that could be the sign of a Kelpie indicating a storm is about to come. Yep.
One more reason to not go wandering in the woods next to riverbeds.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you should just stay out of the woods.
Stay out of the woods at this point.
Yep. So it was said that captive Kelpies, so if you catch a Kelpie, and when we get into stories, we'll talk about how you can do that. If they are captive, they have the strength of approximately 10 horses and the stamina of many more. I couldn't find any kind of indication of a number, but many. So I'm guessing it means more than 10.
It's the strength. So like when they push them into the water?
No. Like if you manage to catch the Kelpie.
Oh.
And it's now yours, it is as strong as 10 other horses by itself. So catching a Kelpie was kind of lucrative or beneficial. You could move a lot of like heavy stuff really easily now, because what would take you 10 trips with one horse or 10 horses.
It's funny because my first response was attach a plow to it.
Well, or move big heavy stones like Stonehenge. I know that's not Scottish, but similar area. Like I said, catching a Kelpie was a very beneficial thing if you could manage to not be drugged into the water and devoured while you were doing it. So kind of where they live, the habitat, every sizable body of water in Scotland allegedly has a Kelpie story associated with it, which is why it's the most common spirit in folklore. There is a little bit of a disagreement over whether it stays only in the rivers that are running inland. Some people say it also extends out to the lochs, which means lake or bay or arm of the sea, especially when it is almost nearly landlocked.
So, the Loch Ness? That just means in a lake?
Yes.
That's it?
Or, because I can't remember off the top of my head, if it's actually connected to the sea, almost like a fjord.
I thought a fjord was land.
I mean, it's land in relation to water as opposed to water in relation to the land.
Oh.
Yeah. But, like, you look on the map of Alaska, how they've got all the little arms of the sea that come into...
Yeah, I was thinking by Beluga Point, where it comes in like that. Does that count as a loch?
I think that's a little small. I think it needs to come more in, kind of like down by, like, the Juneau area, how it cuts in like that.
So all of you whip out your Alaska map so you have any idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, and if you don't know where Juneau is, if you hold your right hand up like you're looking at your watch, and you go ahead and extend your index finger and your thumb, that's essentially the state of Alaska. And Juneau is going to be kind of down by like your knuckle on your thumb. Somewhere about in that region.
Yeah, take that visualization.
Yeah.
Nice job. Nailed it.
Yeah, Charlie Burns made that super popular because Alaska's part of the Midwest. Who knew? So, like I said, habitat, mainly streams, some smaller lakes. Some people say, no, it's basically any body of water.
Before we jump into stories, last week's episode about the mermaids and sirens, Scotland was the only version that I found that had them have different color skin.
Yeah, the blue men of Minch. Minch, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting that you picked to do Kelpies from Scotland as well, and that this was a folklore from there, too.
Stories involving Kelpies, like a lot of kind of older stories around folklore, usually involve several children. With Kelpies, it's specifically about the children climbing on the Kelpie's back. Since there always has to be a witness to the story, it always involves one kid not climbing on the horse's back, because otherwise no one would know what happened. So the one child usually refuses. Some versions he decides to pet the horse, or the Kelpie, and when he pets the Kelpie, his hand becomes stuck to the mane. And depending on the version of the story, sometimes he chops off just his fingers, Sometimes he chops off his whole hand to be able to get away and then runs off. Sometimes the Kelpie chases him. Sometimes it just accepts, like, hey, I got 6 kids. I don't really need a 7th right now, and just jumps into the water that way. Yeah, and they all kind of end the same way, where the children that got on the Kelpie are never seen again, and entrails are the only thing that's ever found. When the Kelpie is in its equine form, if it does not have tack or a bridle on, it's said that it can be captured using a halter stamped with a cross. I think this, again, is added in after Kelpie's had already been around. The cross part, again, with Christians trying to say that, you can defeat the power of the devil with, Jesus. So if you could get the halter on the Kelpie, if it didn't already have one on, you now had control of the Kelpie. So like I said, this Kelpie has the strength of 10 horses, the stamina of even more than that many. So it would be a beneficial thing to have back in the 16, 17, 1800s.
So what if it's already wearing one?
So you could exercise the Kelpie by removing, like an exorcism.
I thought you exercise, we're going to take it for a run.
No. Much darker. We need to exorcise the demons by taking the bridle off the Kelpie. And that actually gets into Kelpie bridles have magical powers tied to them because it came off of a water spirit. And they allegedly are handed down through families generation after generation. And the McGregor clan supposedly has one. My thought is if they do in fact have a Kelpie bridle, they're not going to put it on display or let people know about it too much, because one of the powers is if you brandish it at somebody.
What does brandish mean?
Show it to them.
Okay.
Like if I tried to put this bridle on you, you get turned into a horse or a pony. With that, I did not find any way to undo that effect, so...
You stuck as a horse for the rest of your life just because you were nosy.
Exactly.
Get it, I'm nosy. Let's go.
I know you are.
Let's go find your little plot of land in Scotland and go hunt down the McGregor clan and find this bridle.
A different version is if there's already a bridle, you could just grab it, and if you were able to hang on to the bridle, essentially tame and calm the Kelpie while the bridle was on it, it was now yours. My concern with that would be if the Kelpie has a bridle on and you go to grab it, you have to be able to grab the reins or the bridle without touching the actual Kelpie.
I was just thinking about this.
Because...
then your hand's going to get stuck.
Right. The Kelpie is like duct tape.
Right.
Or super glue.
And what's stopping this Kelpie from plunging into the water and dragging you down into the water while you're holding on to the bridle? Better catch this bridle before it gets closer to the water, huh?
Well, I don't think they really ventured away from water too much, seeing as how they're water spirits. Yeah. Until they were already captured.
So why would it have a bridle on? It got away?
Well, to make it look as like it's a tame, friendly horse. Because
lure 'em in.
Right.
Oh, shiesty.
Some accounts are that the Kelpie is fully tacked out, bridle, saddle,
deceiving.
Like, hey, this, I'm a lost horse that, somebody fell off of.
Get on me,
ride me back to town and see if you can figure out, who I belong to, but nay.
Nay means nay.
Nay means nay. Those of you that have played Unstable Unicorns will maybe get that joke. But yes, the person climbs on the back of it thinking they'll return it to town, and they end up in the river, lake, loch, devoured by a Kelpie. So yes, very deceptive creatures.
I really feel like I should pre-warn my mom about this episode because she's already scared of deep water. So now we got to be scared of not only deep water, but we got to be scared of moose under the water, and now horses under the water.
And mermaids and sirens and krakens and leviathans.
Yeah, really, you should just avoid the water altogether.
I mean, sharks?
Yep.
So that's...
We're done.
Real quick rabbit hole. Real quick. If you are in the water and you are surfing or snorkeling or scuba diving or whatever in the water and you are bit by a shark.
Why'd you leave the S's off?
Those of you that are fans of Ralphie May, he does a stand-up about that.
Okay, go on then.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. I couldn't get past it.
If you are in the water and you are bit by a shark. That is not a shark attack. You are in the shark's house. A shark attack is if you are sitting on your couch in your house and the shark decides to walk in your front door and bite you. That is the shark attacking you. You are a intruder in the shark's home if you are in the water, and it is fair game.
I will stay out of the water now. And you wanted to go halibut fishing. We're not going.
I can see the bottom.
You can see the bottom where?
When we were fishing.
That was salmon.
Oh, salmon. Salmon. Fish
Wow,
is fish.
you are not a fisherman, huh?
Obviously.
Obviously. Go on. You just take your shark attacks and get on with it. Don't mind Violet giggling in the background.
Mind your business.
Mind your business.
Just that whole thing, though, isn't worth laughing.
Okay, go on.
Going into merchandise, so there's all kinds of shirts and posters that you can find on the internet. Big ones, Etsy, Redbubble, TeePublic, Cafe Press. I do want to warn you that if you just look up Kelpie, there is a Australian Kelpie dog breed.
I saw that too. Yeah.
So unless you put Kelpie horse or Scottish Kelpie or water spirit, something to specify that you are looking for the dog breed of Kelpie versus the water spirit of Kelpie.
I typed in Kelpie mythological, and that got me there.
Yep. Or cryptid. It came up under cryptid. It came up under... Basically, if you search for anything other than, like, Kelpie or Kelpie dog, you are probably going to come across
Was there
the water spirit.
MetaZoo character for a Kelpie?
I did not specifically look for MetaZoo. There are also... I would say it's two statues, but they are right next to each other. But there are the big 100-foot tall Kelpie heads. And it's essentially the Kelpie's head and its neck sticking straight up in the air. They're apparently one of the real good things to see if you're ever in the area. So you'll be able to find, pictures, postcards, potentially shirts, coffee mugs with these sculptures on them as well. Going into books, Kelpies have been around since before recorded history or written history, so at least in the parts of Scotland. They're mentioned all over literature and folklore from that area. Like I said, they're the most commonly referenced one. Moving into kind of like more modern books, Kelpie, The Waterhorse Chronicles by Ashley Chapman, Secrets of the Kelpie by Larry Don, The Waterhorse of Loch Ness by Roland Watson, The Horse from Blacklock by Patricia Leicht. I was only able to find two movies about them, or movies that involved them. The first one being The Waterhorse in 2007. I saw at least portions of it on YouTube. Some people made comments about it. It was on Netflix. I didn't see it, so maybe that was a once upon a time, but not anymore. Some of the Harry Potter fans should be familiar with the Kelpie because it is in the second Fantastic Beasts in 2018. He rides on the back of one. The way it's depicted in Fantastic Beasts isn't quite in line with the traditional appearance of it, but... and Kelpies are also found in Dungeons & Dragons Edition 5. They're one of the creatures that you could come across on one of your exploring adventures. So it's called the Helix Park in Falkirk Parks, and that is the home of the Kelpies. And like I said, it's the two horse heads.
They're
Kelpies.
huge.
Yeah, they're 100 feet tall each. One of them kind of is like reared back looking up into the sky, and the other one is kind of looking down at the people on the ground. They look pretty impressive, and if we do make our way over there, I would definitely be open to taking a detour to see them.
Checking them out.
Yeah.
Do you think that Kelpies are real then?
I do find it interesting that this type of creature is in so many different cultures, societies.
What do you mean?
The Irish have something very similar. The old school Germanic people have something very similar. I cannot remember the name of the one from South America. There was a separate one from, I believe, Panama or somewhere else in Central America. So the fact that there's a dozen or more water horse spirits that can transform into people to lure them into the water, whether the intent was just to drown them or to eat them or for whatever reason, I think that's a really interesting trend across them. That these groups, that some of them sizable distances between them, but they all kind of have a same story, I think is
Peculiar?
Yeah. Like, it makes you think that, like, there might be something to it. I don't know. I don't know about the whole shape-shifting thing. Kind of like when we talked about the skinwalkers. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how I can dress myself up to look like a horse that's beyond the shadow of a doubt, a horse and with backwards hooves that can breathe underwater.
That really messes me up. Every time you say that, I'm just like, whoa.
That's why I mentioned it again, just for you. So I don't know, unless they're part of that whole extraterrestrial group that you were talking about.
They're aliens now.
Yeah, moving through different planes and dimensions. But
I think you just need to believe in shape-shifting, and that'll solve a lot of your belief problems.
I mean, maybe it's because I haven't ever seen it.
Oh, you're one of those people.
I mean, I also have not heard of it from firsthand from someone I would consider credible. Have you seen it?
Well, no.
Okay, then.
But I haven't seen a lot of things. I haven't seen Japan or Russia or Mexico or, I don't know, a lot of places. Does that mean they don't exist? I haven't ever seen a live shark in person. Does that mean they don't exist?
I don't believe you. I'm pretty sure you have it in an aquarium. For those of you only
fair.
listening, I stuck my tongue out at her because,
Okay. Trying to think of something else I haven't seen in person.
Well, it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't consider you a credible source anyway.
Wow.
Oh.
That's hurtful. Jerk. You're not a credible source. Anyways, I think that's about all we have on the Kelpies, unless you have anything else.
What about you?
What do you mean, what about me?
You didn't say whether you believe in them or not.
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
I do believe in them because I feel like if mermaids and sirens can exist and shape-shifting shadow creatures can exist and aliens and cow poaching whatever can exist, I think that they can. Or if they don't specifically exist, I think that something close to it can, because that chalks up to the, what if you only see it in the dark and it looks like a different shape than what it actually is? Or maybe it's a sea person's, fisher person's folktale, just like when you're sitting at a campfire and making up stuff, maybe that's one like that. Or maybe it's a tale from moms to try to get their children to stay away from riverbeds so they don't drown.
That is actually one of the common beliefs, is that Kelpies originated as a way to explain people's disappearance into the rivers and lakes. Whether it was, a group of people drowned, or Kelpies allegedly have the ability to summon floods to sweep away lone travelers along the riverbanks. Almost a lot like that elf in Lord of the Rings, where she summons all these horse water spirits to just wash away all of the orcs that are chasing them. I think it very well could have just come about as a easy cautionary tale, and what's scarier than a shape-shifting horse water spirit with backwards hooves
that stretches really long and has glue skin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm good. That would cure me as a child.
Yeah, you're gonna
it
stay
cures me
away.
as an adult.
You're gonna stay away from the water when you're alone, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. We're not. Actually, this makes a very good point. The equivalent of getting in a stranger's van who offered you a candy bar back then would have been getting on their horse. So even back then, parents were trying to tell their kids, don't get on that stranger's horse, he'll abduct you.
Well, because you said that they originally are like old shaggy men. So
That's one of the forms.
Stay away from old shaggy men along the riverbed, because they're gonna drown you and eat you. And
don't take free rides from strangers. Well, and then it also encourages, in the rare stories where the Kelpie transformed into the handsome young man, it can be used to encourage the pretty young women to not trust random handsome young men that just show up without knowing who they are.
that's true.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a one by by a dad instead of the mom. So it was the dad trying to tell their daughters to stay away from random young men. Wow. Yeah, it's real. Yep, I believe it. I think that's about all we have on Kelpies this time. Tune in next week for our potential last episode of the Sea Creatures series. And we are almost to the end of season 1 of the episodes. We are at episode 18 right now. Next week's episode's 19, and then the last episode of the season will be 20, and then we're going to take a week break and move on to season 2.
How did you decide 20 episodes makes a season? Just out of curiosity.
How many do you want me to do?
I don't know. I mean, increments of 10 seem really like, I don't know, basic. I want you to do like a prime number, like 17.
It is too late. 17 is coming past.
Okay. 23.
How about 21?
That's not a prime number.
Fine.
Love you.
So next week's episode will be potentially the last episode of the Sea Creatures series. And then we'll just do a few more to finish up the first season. I have a very picky husband, and he wants me to end on a prime number, so I guess I have a few more than I planned on. But that's fine. We can come up with some cryptids and mythological stuff to cover, just like he did with this one. So, hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Make sure to listen to the previous episode so you can stay caught up, and make sure to tune in next week for, like I said, the last episode of the Sea Creature series. I'm not telling you what it is yet. You'll have to tune in to Instagram and Facebook so that way you can guess and see what it is. And, as always, catch us next time.